backstage before, and they were saying there's a lot of you people that like to drink vodka and orange juice.
What? Excuse me? Excuse me? All right, so we got the chat up. Let's just move the little mouse cursor to the side so we don't have it on our faces.
Let me tune in. Ooh, Grateful Dead record collecting. Glass Orchard 10 years ago.
We're live. Old Radios.
We're live. Hi.
Every silver lining has a touch of gray. I will get by. You will, in fact, get by. You will survive.
That's the attitude to have, kind sir. Good evening, Old Radios.
Good evening, Old Radios.
NWA heavyweight champion of Minglewood barbecue.
Old Radios. Who is in your Mount Rushmore of who are your 4 favorite wrestlers? Let's talk about that.
I'd be kind of like to know yours.
Oh, oof. Starting.
I'm gonna fire off at the hip.
That's right. Starting off with a firework. Okay, so today the answer is going to be Ric Flair. We're going to put Roddy Piper. And my third choice is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, baby.
Ooh, baby, that's a solid decision, Daddy.
And the fourth choice, just because we have to, we're going to make it Bruno Sammartino. So there you go.
All right.
And yours is today.
The American Dream, Death the Rose. Shawn Michaels at number 2, 3 Piper, and I'm going to round things out with Terry Funk.
Terry Funk. Okay.
Terry Funk, baby.
Old Radio said
those are
Sting because Grandma lived across the street. Saw pics of him without his makeup. Well, you just had to make it through an entire match and you'd see him without his makeup on.
This is true. This is true.
Him and the Warrior, kind of the same thing.
But that's cool. Was he a good neighbor? Did he keep his yard trimmed, or did he kind of get around to it when he got around to it? Did he pull his garbage can back? The questions I want to know.
It was 1999, and it was like seeing Kiss without their makeup in 1977. Was that in 77? Was that when Kiss Unmasked was, or was that
81? But
81.
Or 80, no, 83. 83. But the thing is, they kept it under lock and keys, snatching cameras and things like that. So we haven't done a show in a while. We're not rusty at all.
We're not.
We're doing good. Look at us.
Look at us, Steve. We got 2 people watching. That's
right
it.
on.
If you're on, say hello. Good evening. Good evening. What did you want to talk? What did you want to talk about today, Steve?
I want to riff. I just want us to talk about this, that, and the other thing. I want to tell you what I've been listening to for the past while since we've had a show, and I'm going to start it off.
2 weeks since we've had.
It's been a little bit. I'm going to be kind of all over the place, Mark. I'm going to show different forms of media. So, what are you drinking? That Liquid Death stuff you're going on about?
No, This is the.
Ooh, twisted tea. Those could get you in trouble, baby.
Yeah, no.
You can have 6 or 8 of those and be like, yeah, I'm good.
That's right. Yeah.
And you're not.
The kidneys start to hurt after a little bit, after all that, all the sugar that you're consuming in these things. But
that's what they call diabetes here in the South. The sugars. I got the sugars. That's what they call them.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Let's talk about. We can make it sort of like an all show and tell. I got a kind of a cool stack of stuff to show off. So
right on.
But let's go ahead and make it happen.
So I listened to this while I was washing dishes, and it is Kiss Dynasty,
I
and
was made for loving you, baby.
that is the song that people go to. But this has got some good pop hooks on it, man. That's a, dare I say, underrated album. Um, let's kind of stay the course. Let's mix it up.
Okay.
Here's one that I've been listening to. This was recordings from 63 to 65. And it's the Rolling Stones on air. It's the BBC sessions, essentially.
So
This is really good. Are
let
you
me
familiar with
let me tell
this?
you a little story about that. So when that came out, there was I went to Target the day well, it was, I take that back. It was the day before it came out. I went to Target, and there was like a cart full of like their new releases that they were like sort of putting on the, you know, on the shelves and all that. And I saw that was there, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this. So I was like gonna snatch it up and go. And when I went to the register to check out, I went to the self checkout, and it was like, cannot be purchased before such and such a date. So I didn't get it, and I never got it.
Oh,
So, but it's all like BBC sessions, right? Is that sort of what?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, it's got it right there at the bottom corner. This is a BBC recording. It's you can't see it, but just trust me, it
Hold it
does.
to your chest.
And
And it's a
yeah, I
double
mean,
disc, right? Double.
it's
There's like
it's it
probably
is
like 40 some
it's
tracks,
two
something like that.
discs.
Yeah.
There is well, yeah, 18 and 14. So yeah, so you get I mean, you get kind of some stuff like the Spider and the Fly and 2120 South Michigan Avenue, Little by Little, Carol, some of their kind of standards. But you also get stuff like Cops and Robbers, Memphis, Tennessee, which is really good. Fannie Mae, baby, just don't do any investing. High heel sneakers, just really cool. Kind of a nice mixed bag of B-sides and album cuts of like 63 to 65. So it's really good stuff, man. It's early Stones. It is what it is, and sometimes that's the best kind of stuff.
Well, I think especially like the early stuff, it's almost like um, it's like a blessing to get any of that stuff because one, I mean, just
Sure.
the audio quality is so poor with the bootlegs and things like that that exist of the early albums. But at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, it's
Oh
again,
yeah.
I think that's one thing that's cool, and that's just been within what probably the last maybe 20 years or so that there was the Beatles BBC sessions, and I think they even had a second a volume of that. There was like that brown double disc. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Mm-hmm.
live at the BBC, and I think they had a second.
Oh yeah, I've got both of them.
Okay, so they had a second volume come out. Of course, the Led
Yep.
Zeppelin BBC sessions, that was, stuff that you couldn't get anywhere. Jimi Hendrix has his own BBC sessions official thing. Yardbirds have
Which
theirs.
is really good too.
Yeah. So it's cool and it's kind of strange that it took so long for the Stones to put something out like that. All those other bands had done that, mid 90s, stuff like that, like, in the CD
Sure.
era. So, um, Old Radio says it doesn't have any live Beatles albums. There's not really that many, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, they're
there.
not really. They're not really. To me, the live Beatles stuff really isn't worth your time.
Well, they're also in that. They're also sort of in that era where, those recordings weren't like the recording process. There wasn't like a lot of stuff out there, right? So they have the official documents, um, and things like that, but they don't have it wasn't like they were going out and like, for instance, like the Doors were absolutely live where they were recording, 4 or 5 shows. The technology was enough that they could
Sure.
take the mobile and do anything like that. So, Old Radios, you bring up about too much screaming. Every time that I think about this, I read a really great article. You think about all of the Beatles stuff that's out there, that like what hasn't been said about the Beatles. And I think the one thing that like resonates the best for me is that when you go to a concert, usually you smell sort of the herbal supplements, if you will, kind of wafting through the air nowadays. But those early Beatles concerts, what I've been told is they smelled like pee because people were screaming so much they were peeing their pants.
Oh my god!
and this is true. This is the God's honest. So anytime that I see, that old concert footage of just people like absolutely screaming, um, it just, you know, brings that sort of thought to mind that that's what a Beatles concert smelled like in 1964. It smelled like pee.
And then when you were walking, back to the, out of the door back to the car, was like walking in a movie theater was,
Oh Lord.
So,
I want you to think about that.
Well, speaking of live albums,
speaking of
the next time I listen to You Can't Do That, I will think of urine. So
that's right, exactly.
How about this one? Miles Davis in concert. Are you familiar with this one?
So, Steve, I have been sort of chasing the On the Corner box set. It is. Have you seen the prices for this lately?
No, I've got it.
You have it, the metal one. You have it?
No, I have. I have copies of it.
You have copies of it. Okay.
Which I still have it. That counts.
You still have it, right? But the official, if you wanted to go out and buy the physical artifact, right? It's like $300 to $400 now. So all that other stuff is, I remember the Miles Davis, John Coltrane, the red one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes.
I remember that being for sale at the exchange for like $20.
Oof, but that stings.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I think you can probably still get that one. That one might be still kind of pretty readily available, but those other ones were sort of, I think, kind of hard to get. But I've been kind of chasing that. That's sort of like right now. That's my white whale. That's kind of the big thing that I'm looking for. But yes, that is, and I believe that's the Fillmore concert, right? I have that on CD.
It is.
I don't have it on vinyl, but it's
great. It's great. All that stuff. I think you put Live Evil on our top 500, and that's probably like, if you're gonna get one live Miles Davis record, that might be it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that one's a pretty good second choice if you just can't find that one.
If you like sort of the On the Corner, I think the On the Corner is a little bit more on the avant-garde kind of side. I feel there's a lot of sort of the freeform, where it was just sort of like, I'm trying to think of what it's been a while since I've really delved into my Miles Davis stuff, but I used to know sort of like the lineage of some of those albums. But the Cellar Door Sessions, that was like right before that, which pretty much made up the Live Evil album. That is an incredible box set to get. So
sure.
I have a feeling the On the Corner may have that on there. Is that, or maybe it's Big Fun? Big Fun, I think, is on.
Big Fun Big Fun was one that came out, I think, in '74. It's essentially like the outtakes of On the Corner, I believe.
Okay.
Got it. And I got a couple more things if you got the time.
Yeah.
I am going to say that this is a band that I think they're terrible people. With that being said, I think that this is a band and album that I heard constantly and going to high school in Texas, and it's Pantera, and this is the Great Southern Trendkill. Are you familiar with this?
I can't say that I'm familiar with the album, but I couldn't name you a song off of it or anything like that. So, yeah. Talk to me.
So it's probably their most angriest, and it's good when you
Phil Ensemble.
I mean, it's got some Dimebags. Phil. Yeah, they're not the best of people. Phil Anselmo is not a good guy, and we would probably disagree on a lot of fundamentals about human rights and things like that. And but I digress. That album definitely is one that if you're upset, that will make you unupset and feel better. So.
Old Radio
now.
Hold on. Old Radio said you're not a Fantera. So I worked with a guy years back who pretty much all he listened to was Pantera, Slayer, and he was really big into Lamb of God. And I it just was sort of like when it was like his turn to pick the music, it was just sort of like, like just go ahead and
Oh,
just put.
cool. Hell awaits. Here we go. I can't wait to hear this again.
I'm gonna go work in something, on the other side of the warehouse while you're listening to, whatever. I mean, I'd listen to it, but it wasn't like I never got to the point where I was just like, this is something I want to listen to
This is
for
enjoyable.
for pleasure, and then it would be me, it'd be like my turn, and we always would listen to like Dark Side of the Moon. We would listen to CCR Chronicle, or we would listen to like the Rolling Stones Hot Rocks, because I felt like that was like everybody could kind of agree
That's
on that. Um,
that's a
th-
that's a nice extending the olive branch, you know.
yeah, all very safe that like anybody can listen to, or yeah, it gets a little rockin', but it's not like too much like, that you have to really, you know, and then we would play some Iron Maiden every once in a while. So that was a fun job that I had. But yeah, I just kind of ruined it for me. So that's why I was not, because there at the time I think there was Damage Plan, I think, which is the offshoot that was the dimes thing, and then I forget what
Right.
Phil had his solo, I forget what his solo band was. There was
Super
something
joint ritual.
super joint rich. So again, we would listen to those as well too, and um,
Those are rough listens, both of them, and by rough I mean terrible. So
yeah, they
so
would I
there.
wouldn't be, like I said, I would just sort of be like, yeah, you can put that on. I'll get the next one, and I was just like, I'm gonna go over there. So yeah,
All right, couple more things, and then I'll stop
yeah, no, keep
yapping.
showing stuff.
So,
It's great.
when I get back from the beach and kind of late August, like that officially begins like Halloween. Like I joke and say like, when I put my swim trunks up in the closet, like then the Halloween stuff comes out. So I've been kind of watching spooky movies and all that kind of stuff, and I want to tell you about some. I'm
Okay.
going to nominate this one for our next at the movies. This is
O-
Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Okay.
This came out in 60 or 70, or maybe, let me see. Hold on. Let's consult this and see when this came out. I want to say this came out in like 74,
Okay.
but anyway, so it follows a group of teenagers, but really they're probably in their mid 20s at this point. I think they're art students, they're theater students, and they go out to this island where they are going to dig up a dead guy and perform a ritual. Well, you can assume that it doesn't go so well for them. Now, this movie is a slow burn. It is
Okay.
an hour and a half, but the first hour and 20, the first hour and like 10 minutes, nothing happens.
Hmm.
But the final half hour is amazing. When all the zombies starts coming out, it's really great for them to be on a shoestring budget. This is really good. The last half hour makes up for the incredible boring pace
Okay.
prior to the stuff hitting the fan.
So you should chuck that in the mail and send that to me, and we can watch it. Or I guess I'll look for it. Is it something that we can watch? Is it something?
Well, they have the whole thing on YouTube.
Okay.
The entire thing is on YouTube.
Okay.
So the entire movie, and it's been up on YouTube for like 10 years. So I don't think they're pulling it anytime soon.
Okay. Excellent. Let's do it.
So,
Um,
and the last thing I'm going to show is this is a movie that kind of flew under the radar. It came out in 2015, and it stars Kurt Russell, and it's called Bone Tomahawk.
okay.
And it starts off, you think that, okay, this is going to be just another Western that just doesn't go anywhere or anything, but it's not. There's a group of cannibals in there.
Hmm.
And it takes a left turn and keeps turning after that point, and it's really enjoyable. So again, don't let the Western thing, I know that kind of bugs people out a little bit, but it is well worth your time, and it's pretty gruesome, and certainly not what I was expecting out of it. But those are two good movies that I would suggest that watching and getting yourself into spooky season.
Spooky season is definitely is definitely fun, and for me, the like official end of summer is the Pittsburgh Renaissance Festival. So that always sort of runs through end of August through September, and then like the first week of October. So that was actually this weekend. I had the pleasure of going on Sunday. Um, and
And did everybody have fun?
yeah, it's always a good time. There's all the anytime you can do a little, maybe a little day drinking, and I've always sort of had a soft spot for like sort of outdoor theatrics, and there's people that are like blowing fireballs, and walking, as you saw from the picture, walking on tight ropes, and there's music stuff. There's like Celtic
Like
music, and
Jethro Tull?
not yeah. I would bet. I'd put some pretty good money down that any of those bands that played, if you would maybe scroll through their Spotify, or if you looked at their CD collection or record collection or whatever, there would be a Jethro Tull album or two, probably songs from The Wood, which see, this is the best part. This is why I love Tuesday nights, because after we're done with this, all this music that we talk about, like I just kind of like I have to like pick an album right before I fall asleep to listen to, and it's
The
like
Check of the
whatever.
Green.
Cup of Wonder, like do 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 do. Yeah.
That cowbell. I was like, yeah, get down. Drink that cup of wonder.
Yep. I remember I had to go back to school in August, and I hated seeing summer commercials. After I had to go back, I wanted Halloween commercials. Yeah, I mean,
I hear you.
Halloween. There's a lot of stuff coming out. The Hocus Pocus 2, what that's coming out in a month. What are your thoughts for that? Are you a fan of that movie?
I mean, I was when I was a kid,
Okay.
but it's been several years since I've seen it. But that's like, the people of our age or thereabouts, give
Yeah.
or take, or
Usually it's a little bit younger than me, I think, but you're right. Yeah,
that's a
usually.
that
Yeah.
that's a pretty big movie for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and they're making a Beetlejuice sequel too, which was one of my favorites as a kid. And
Yeah.
I watched it enough that my folks were like, "All right, we got to take this away," because I was like 5 and wanted to watch it every day. And they're like,
But they
"Yeah,
had the
we're not doing
cartoon
it."
too. So there was like, you sort of
It was
had
a
that
good
like,
Toxic Avenger had a cartoon too, so
yeah,
there's no accounting for that. So
exactly.
yeah. I mean, will I watch it? Sure. I what I did see preview today that I'm super curious about is that Weird Al with Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So, oh, well, we've talked about Weird Al. I know that's kind of like
Yeah, not
uh,
necessarily something I'm going to go out of my way to see, but yeah, I did see
well,
some trailer stuff for it, so
well,
yeah.
it'll end up in the dollar bin at Dollar General eventually, and
Yeah.
you cannot pick it up then.
It'll be $1.25 at Dollar Tree.
What's up with that?
The thing that kind of makes me laugh is you can't go through the line where it's like that's the small talk that people are having with like the cashiers, where it's like, oh, it's $1.25 now. Like, it's only been like that for almost 8 months. And like people are still talking about how it's like, well, now when you buy three things, it costs as much as four things used to, and that whole thing, or four things cost as much as five things now. You know what I mean? So
It's still
uh,
the cheapest thing to get, so either get it here or do without it.
yeah, I try to stay out of that store because it's just, it's just not, I, I really only go in there for three things ever: mailers, uh, packing tape, little thing of packing tape, and then I look at their DVDs, and that's it. That's usually all that I do. And anything else in there,
Occasionally, you find a wrestling one like sprinkled in there, and you're like, I'll get this.
yeah, that's how finding that SummerSlam, that was pretty great. And it was funny because it was like, they got two boxes of like the exact same movie, so there was like two of everything. So I was like, you know, made sure I got both of those. So, um,
Right on.
so yeah, you got anything else?
That's it. That's all I've got. So
So
I want to hear. I do have a story to tell you at the end, not offline, but like I do want to regale you with this heartbreaking story.
okay, okay,
It involves records.
involves records. Steve, I know that I had sent you some pictures of this. I was
Yeah.
was taking a look at this, and you know what? I gotta admit, like for the price of this, there's no advertisements in it. It's just like 65 pages of just wrestling goodness, and that's awesome. You know what I mean? But very heavy on the AEW. They really didn't say much
Well,
about
yeah.
WWE. Like that New Japan Wrestling is like all they
Oh,
ever talk about in
that'll
that.
change.
Yeah, you think so?
That'll change. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. In just the month that things have kind of changed, there's been a really good change, and I've liked what I've seen. They've kind of dropped the PG thing and all that. So yeah, they'll come around. Yeah,
Good.
yeah, I expect next year that to be a little bit more balanced.
Well, I think even, again, I don't watch, I don't have cable, so I can't watch Raw. They were in Pittsburgh yesterday, I know. But from what I've seen on SmackDown, like when I talked to you at the beginning of July, I remember I was watching SmackDown. And I was like, "What the heck am I watching?" And like
Right, it's terrible.
the last couple weeks have been pretty good. I mean, I haven't watched in the last 2 weeks, but just even their build up for their. I think this weekend they're having the Clash at the Castle or whatever it is. So it's a pay per view.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the arc of the wrestling. So it's the last show before the pay per view and the one right after the pay per view are always the two best episodes you're going to see the whole entire time. But yeah, there's
sure.
some good reading in that, so check that out if you are by the newsstand or in the grocery store. You can still buy these if you want to, or get a subscription, get it digitally, all that good stuff.
There
So
you
I've
go.
been reading that. So Steve, as you know, I am moving. I am moving out of my house. So
You're moving to South Carolina.
moving to
That's
South
right. We're
Carolina,
gonna.
yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much all of my records are packed up. So all I sort of have is in front of me is kind of like just the stuff that I've picked up and I've listened to. Um, I know I had mentioned this a few shows back. So this is the newest Grapefruit comp. It's called Before the Day is Done, and it's the story of the Folk Heritage record label from
Okay.
1968 to 1975. You had kind of asked, remember how we talked about some of these albums that were like they're beyond out of print, they never made it to the CD era.
Yeah.
Some of them they've maybe only pressed up 1,000 copies of, things like that. So to answer your question, some of the source material is from vinyl on this,
Wow.
which is cool. Again, it's still like I think it's 68 tracks, something like that. There's a lot of kind of interesting sort of chestnuts. I enjoy it. I've been listening to it. It's not necessarily something you really have to think about when you're listening, but it's good. It's really good folk music, so I've enjoyed it. And of course, the booklet is just a massive booklet about some of their subsidy record labels and things like that. So it's given me sort of a whole bunch of things to look at on eBay and Discogs and things like that. So I picked up these two CDs. You were on the phone with me when I did that, so I'd love to talk to you about them. Um,
Ooh.
so King
The one on
Crimson,
your left hand is amazing. There you go.
this one. So Lark's Tongue
Yeah, buddy.
and
Yeah,
Lizard.
that's
So talk about this. What are your like? So these are the 30th anniversary. They sound great. I mean, they're
yeah.
they're really good. But Vinyl
Two,
Fever, Dan's on. Hey Dan, no, I'm not moving to South Carolina. I am still going to be within the Pittsburgh metropolitan area. So no, I'm not. Steve only wishes that I'm moving to South Carolina, but I'm sorry, no, I'm not. So
we have good barbecue. You'll
we
have to
do.
overlook some
But you
other
know what?
things, but we do have good barbecue.
I've been making some good barbecue up here, man. That might turn into something else for me. So, um, but so talk to me.
Minglewood may have an official location.
That's right. Hey man, the headquarters is wherever you are. Wherever you are, that's the headquarters. That's it. It doesn't have to have
There we go.
the satellite
Our
location.
headquarters in y'all's heart.
That's
That's where our
exactly.
headquarters are.
So talk to the people about these two CDs, and I just want to. I'm just going to kind of listen. So I want to hear what you have to say about these. So
So King Crimson to me has three records: The Court, Larks, and Red.
okay,
Everything else, Islands, Bible Black,
Wake Up Poseidon.
don't care for any of those. I've tried Disciple. I've tried none of them do it for me, but those three. Circus is kind of an endurance test, especially the second side.
Okay.
I that and Poseidon are probably my least favorite output by them. I don't know. Islands has some good ideas, but Islands doesn't really do anything. But they really come back strong with Red or Larks. I think came first, and then Red, or maybe I had it backwards. And then they broke up. But those are some really really great albums. And if you want some of that kind of really harder guitar oriented King Crimson, I would suggest definitely Larks. Circus, you said, should I get these? And I remember telling you, like, you can leave Circus, but I would get Larks. And
Yeah.
we haven't really talked much about this.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on them.
These were used, they're the 30th anniversary one, HD CD. So, I know they're going to sound pretty awesome. $10 for the one,
Sure.
19 for the other, so $20 for both of them. I still feel that was a pretty good deal. Like you said, flip them on eBay if you don't like them, because they're
exactly.
out of print at this point. So, yeah, I mean, and I know we've joked about it before, where it's like I never listened to anything outside of In the Court of the Crimson, or the Court of the Crimson King, because I felt like there was no way that like, to me, it's a perfect album. Like, there's there are some moments that are what's the one track that's like just like the one that's just like the drum track. I forget what it is, but there's one track on there that just is like, had they taken that off, that album would have had an amazing amount of pop appeal, in my opinion. I think it would have been like,
well, and you know where that pop influence comes from. It's not from Fripp.
It's from Blake, right? Exactly.
Right.
So,
right.
But yeah, and we talked about that too, where it's like, these albums are basically when you don't have, I mean, who are they produced by, right? It doesn't really say. There's the engineer, but it's produced by King Crimson, right? Which means Robert Fripp.
Which Robert Fripp, right?
So again, sometimes you need that gatekeeper to tell you, like, there's a difference between, like, okay, hey, how do we make this be a platinum album, and how do we sell 100,000 copies? You know what I mean? Or how do we make this a gold album where it could go, a platinum record? And I feel like they were there. I think that's why that album is always, you always see that on the list, but that's usually like, it hit 500 greatest records, right? You always see that one, but you never see these ones. Like, they don't, like, they may get a mention, but they never are like, that's an album that you should buy. Like, nobody really ever recommends that or puts that in your, like, if you walk over to the King Crimson section, somebody's going to be putting In the Court of the Crimson King in your hand. So, AKA Red Screamy Man, according to Reddit, says Old Radios. So,
there we go.
Yep. So yeah, so I've been listening to that. I went to our local Goodwill just to kind of see what was going on, and so these were like $2. So, again, when something's like $2, just like back in the day, the records that you could just kind of say, like, yeah, I'm going to get that, and then we'll see how it turns out. This is a group that we've talked about before. So Public Image Limited. This is what, 9?
Okay.
I think that's what this is. Is this what that one's called? 9? Yeah. So this is like, when did this come out? Like 1990, 1989. So what are your thoughts on Public Image Limited? Like, what do you think about?
I mean, I like the first album a lot. Everything else after that's a bit much.
Okay, yeah.
So
I mean, and it's it's a weird sort of.
It's almost like what Mick Jones did after the Clash. What was that?
The LAMF, right?
Yeah, no. What Mick Jones did after the Clash, he did like, was it Big Audio Dynamite or something like that?
Yes, Big Audio Dynamite. Yep.
Yeah, just it's like that kind of like dance new wave
sort of synthesizer
kind of thing,
right?
Yeah, kind of real heavy, and I kind of think that's what PIL is. But like I said, that first record's, I mean, great. Mm-hmm. That first record is really good, especially the title cut. So that one I'm not super familiar with. So
yeah, neither was I. But I was like, I guess our Goodwill, I mean, they always used to, I guess, put the dates on the stickers and stuff like that. But this had been there for like a day, and I was like, I'm gonna buy that because you don't often see their records, and for $2, I was like, hey, what the heck? I'll listen to it. So I listened to it. It was all right. You know what I mean? I'll probably listen to it
Yeah.
again. Now this one is uh, years ago. Used to see like the Verve Jimmy Smith stuff like crazy, right? Like all those Verve albums,
Sure.
like was it Bashin' and whatever. And I do like the dynamic duo, which is him and Wes Montgomery. It was one of the first like jazz records I
Mm.
ever got. It's very it's very safe. At this point, it's not as great as I might think it is, but I listen to it a lot. I enjoy it. But this is on the Blue Note. This is the incredible Jimmy Smith Open House.
Nice.
Um, have you heard this before?
I have heard bits and pieces of that
Okay.
one. But if it's on Blue Note and it's Jimmy Smith, it's pretty much worth your time.
Yeah, exactly. It's again, it was one of those things that was like $2, and I was like, I like Jimmy Smith, and I have a handful of his records. I think, the Sermon is amazing. Uh,
That's classic. Yeah.
yeah, Back at the Chicken Shack is pretty good.
What is that?
Uh,
Living It Up. That one's really good.
I don't know which one that one is. Of course, the one that has Root Down on it, that's a good one too. Um, that's sort of like a live album. Uh, and then I have Stay Loose. Are you familiar with that one? That's a Verve one. That was like my introduction. That was like my absolute
Mhm.
introduction to
Yeah.
Jimmy Smith was Stay Loose. So yeah,
I found a copy of the sermon for $1, and that was my introduction to him.
that's great. That's great.
So
Um,
yeah.
and then the last thing, so on Sunday or on Saturday, I was in my hometown. There was a little kind of town festival going on with food vendors and all kinds of stuff like that. And there was a guy that has like he's like a little, not necessarily like a junk shop, but he has a bunch of like he has a bunch of DVDs, not necessarily CDs, mostly DVDs. Um, and he had them all out on the sidewalk. So I'm like going through, and of course, what am I looking for, Steve? I'm looking for your wrestling DVD.
Wrestling.
You got them wrestling DVDs in here. Everything was $2.99 if it was like a single disc. If it was a double disc, it was $2.99 plus $2 was how he sort of did it. And everything that I was looking at was like, here's an ECW one, wrong disc in there. Here's, whatever. And they were just in alphabetical order. So it was almost like you had to like know, oh, is it Armageddon? Is it
Oh my
Backlash?
gosh.
Is it SummerSlam? You know what I mean? Like, so, I'm just
God
sort of
forbid
like,
you just put all
yeah.
the wrestling stuff together.
Exactly. So, excuse me, where's your sports section?
Mm.
So I did find something that was sort of worthwhile. So he was like, okay, you got to go into the store and pay for it. We're not, collecting money on the street. So they had to go, do the whole square thing. And as I'm walking out, I see like two crates of records that are just sort of sitting like off into the corner. And so
Isn't that the mark of a collector? Is that like you can go in anywhere and like you just have like
like
your tractor beam, you just hone in like
Siren's
that's a
call,
milk
man.
crate.
It's the
What's in there?
siren's call. It's the siren's call. Are
Y'all
you
have records, don't you?
are you familiar with Greek literature? It's the siren's call, right? You're just
I
pulled
am absolutely. You hear it, and
you're pulled right in.
so
Like, I'm gonna go in here.
so
I don't ever go in here, but let's go in here, and here we go. There's a box of records. Um, so yeah, so I go and I'm sort of looking through, and there's like a couple of like kids records, like these Sesame Street records and like a Mr. Rogers records. There was the one Cars record was in there, a couple Chicago records.
okay.
And then like as I'm like flipping through, there was like an entire crate of just like Bollywood records. So of course, like I
Now
hit.
let me stop you right
Okay,
there.
go ahead.
Like I want to know the backstory between all of this. Like how in the world did those records end up in that place?
So and I asked him that question. So I said, I'm like, where did you get these records from? We were making small talk. I mean, I did ask them, and he said there was a lady that came in who she was from India, and she had a bunch of records, and she was moving, and she said, I can't take these with me, so would you give me some money from them? And he said, yeah. So I go through and, I'm looking through, and some of them were like in the wrong, some records were in the wrong sleeve, but I was able to find like the other record and kind of pair them up so that it was like the correct one. Um, so of course, I'm no longer the mark of 2005, 2006, 2007, where I would have just been like, I'm just gonna buy them all, and then whatever the financial repercussions were going to be on that, it was just going to be what it was going to be. You know what I mean? So I kind of told myself, I'm like, okay, just pick like five, right? So just pick a couple, right? Just based on which ones look cool, and kind of based on the content, like which ones am I going to go to? I did very well, Steve. So I think I got six, maybe five, six, something like that. And the ones that I picked were just um, certainly worth a good deal of money on Discogs and things like that. So we go and I give him the records, right? And I kind of say, so how much are these, right? So of course the $1 million
Because
question,
nothing's marked.
because nothing has a
He's
price
just
on it, Steve. Why would they have a
because he's
price
just
on them? You
because
know,
he's just gonna pull it out of his ass when it comes up there. It's
why
like
would
this
why
is
would you
10, this
bother to
is
price
5,
them?
this is 8. You know,
Everything else in the store didn't have a price on it. Why would you bother to put a price on it? So I go, and of course he's like, he kind of has them like set out in front of him, and he's like, "Oh, you picked all the expensive ones." And I was like, "I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did." And so he's like, "I have an
well,
app."
this one's got Ganesh on it, so it's
Yeah.
it's it's 35.
He's
And
like, "I have an app on my phone that I can see how much
oh
these are
my
worth."
god,
So he's
have a nice day, sir.
so he starts
Take it
plugging in,
easy.
right? So, well, first he said they're $20 each, and I was like, I immediately I was like, no, like I am not paying, $20 a piece for it. So I was already kind of like giving him like,
Because
um,
realistically, who else is going to buy these? Who
exactly,
else is going to buy
exactly,
these?
exactly.
So
Um,
yeah,
so
come on.
so so we go, and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'll look some up with you, and we'll agree on a price. So I start going through, and I looked up one of them on. I looked up one on Discogs, and there was like no copies in the United States, and they were all like, like 60 euros, 70 euros, 80 euros, things like that. And I was like, this is
Wow.
insane. And so I just kind of like got to the point where I just sort of like pumped the brakes, and he was like, hey, well, why don't we work out like this price? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. um I struggle on paying more than 3 to 5 frog skins for records. It's all about the law of averages, old radio. So you can go in there and you can spend a little folding money, but just remember that sometime down the road you're going to find something that's going to be $1 or $2, and it's the law of averages. Um, so yeah, so we kind of like, once we
Don't
once we started. Go
don't
ahead.
ever be afraid to haggle,
Yeah.
and don't ever be afraid to walk
Walk
away.
away. Don't be afraid to walk away. So yeah, he had a fish on the line,
And
and
don't ever be afraid to haggle.
I refuse to pay over $25 unless it's something I really, really, really want. I agree. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. You shouldn't pay more than. I mean, in this day and age, I understand that like brand new records are 25, 35,
Yep.
$40. That's to the entry level. If that's what you're looking for, if that's what you're buying, okay, that's fine. But why not like save your money so that you can buy other interesting stuff? Know when to hold them, know when to gold them. No,
Yeah.
that's good. I know you wanted to say fold there, but know when to gold them. That's I like that too. So we kind of stopped. We kind of were looked up a couple, and I was like, okay, that's fine. Why don't we kind of meet here? And so that was that. So I kind of talked to him. We struck up a deal. He gave me his card, and I'm like, I'm going to bring you stuff, and we're going to trade the next time. So I'm just going to give you stuff, and I'm not going to pay you anything. But let me show you what I got, Steve. So I got this beautiful gem. This is Film Hits from 1974. It's exactly what you think it sounds like. Um,
Wow.
and it's
That's cool, man.
it's when I used to do this tech support job, there was a website that you could go to that had these like little Bollywood movie clips, and then you could write the subtitles on them, so you could make like these little funny stories and stuff like that. Um, and so there, some of these, like I'm familiar with this guy, this actor, and there's another guy. I think it's this one on the back. There's some guy that he, like by 1981, there was one like actor that he was just like cranking the movies out, like one after the other after the other. But it's fantastic. This is, I don't have much Indian music other than sort of like Ravi Shankar, so it's sort of like it's really cool to have an actual, like Bollywood record. Um, this the Bhagavad Gita. This is of course sort of a religious kind of thing, like a
Yeah,
Hindi. It's sort of like it's almost like it's like a spoken prayer kind of thing, and there's a little bit of like sitar, sort of incidental sitar in the
very cool.
background. I would say out of all the ones that I got, this one was probably I just got it basically because of the content. This would be sort of equivalent to somebody reading the Bible or certain passages from the Bible. I don't know how much I'm gonna sort of listen to this, but yeah, it was cool and it was in pretty good shape. So
Right on.
um, this one is this was sort of the crown jewel out of all of this. So Ananda Shankar and his music. Are you familiar with Ananda Shankar at all?
No, Ravi Shankar, but not.
I believe there's a connection. I believe there's. I want to say that it may be his son. I think, um, but it's more like pop sensibilities with like synthesizers, and he did do a record that was really like there's a tune with Jumpin' Jack Flash on it that is just it is so
Oh
incredible.
wow.
It is so incredible. It's you know what, maybe just for the sake of this, I'm gonna play a second or two of it. I don't know. It's Wea, so we might get a copyright strike if I play it. Should I play it? I want you to just hear what this sounds like, though.
Go for it.
All right, here we
Mark, we have 8 people watching. I don't
go.
think 6 of those are WEA execs that are going to be like, guys.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we'll play a little bit of it just to kind of yeah,
We're committing crimes. So nobody's saying anything. All right.
exactly. All right, here we go. Can you hear it?
Yeah, that's not coming through.
No, no. Here comes the Okay, we'll stop that.
All right. If you digitize that, hook your boy up because I like that.
It is so good. It is so good. I learned that from there was a compilation called "What It Is," which was like um, it was like the nuggets that was sort of like the soul funky nuggets that they put out. It's really good. There's some, it does slap. It does in fact slap. Um, but this one has the Streets of Calcutta on it, that's like the jammer for that. So look that one up. But yeah, this is the full record is on YouTube if you wanted to look at it or whatever. But um, like copies of this is like in the upwards of like the $75 range. So
Ouch.
yeah, that was a thrill to get that one. Um, Here's another one that this is just a compilation. Another one that's just film hits. This is just another one that's like just Bollywood, very simple packaging and all that. So um, there you go. Little Cow.
Wait.
Uh oh.
Can
Uh
you?
oh. Okay.
Wow.
Wow. How do we redact that? That's fun. Hmm.
Wow. What an asshole.
Well, let's just shut that down for now. All right, Steve. Um, so let me show you. I'm going to see if I can turn off the chat here. Wow.
Yeah, on behalf of Mark and I both, we're sorry for that. What a scumbag.
That's fine.
So
I'm deleting it right now. Um, yeah, that's fun. Uh, okay, here you go. All right, Steve. That's well, hey, that's the first time that's ever happened.
yeah, that's wow.
Can we put the user in timeout? Is that a There we go. Perfect. See you later. Uh,
Yeah, hopefully not.
there we are. Okay, so let me just show you the last two. So we got. I remember being 15 online. I got another one that's from. I really don't know how to
Maybe
pronounce it.
that was a Wea exec really coming in
That is,
after. I'm
yeah.
kidding.
They're coming in. They're coming in, dropping the fire. This is another one that's just. I guess this is like supposed to be a pretty. This one was kind of banged up, but it was a double. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, it's just pictures from the movie. So eating the poo poo, gas, gas, gas. There you go. There you are. And then the last one was just a. There we go. Just a Ravi Shankar record. So um,
Right on.
you're familiar with that kind of stuff. So there we be. So that is that. Um, so that's the story of the Bollywood record, Steve. So thoughts?
Those are really cool. So now, will you go back and get more?
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to see if he'll like maybe take some stuff, or maybe I can trade him some records. The most expensive records that I have, and see what he gives me for
Yeah.
them. But yeah, I thought that was definitely a pretty good was a pretty good score. It's one of those things that like just doesn't happen that often, and you know,
Yeah.
it just so happened that I was there and those records were there. So, what else you want to talk about, Steve? That's a lot of show and tell we got.
So I gotta. I got a fun story for you. So, do you remember a while back? I talked to you briefly about a friend of mine in high school. How his dad was like, "Yeah, if you give me the CD, I'll give you the record for it." And I did that with Live Dead, and
Mm-hmm.
I have that nice first pressing of Live Dead that's just in beautiful shape and all that stuff. My friend tells me that yeah, his folks are moving, they're downsizing, and before I could ask him what's your dad doing with his records, he tells me that yeah, he said this is all after the fact, but he took them to Half Price Books.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, it's going to be about 45 minutes. And he goes, I don't want to wait that long. I got things to do. He says, how much realistically are you going to give me for these? And they're like, we really don't know without looking at them and all that. It's like, well, forget it. You guys can just have them.
Mm-hmm.
And he left his, who knows what he says. There were Stones in there. There was Grateful Dead, and all that stuff was just in immaculate shape. And if you are in Texas, visit your nearest Half Price Books because you may get lucky and find some good stuff. So that was a very heartbreaking story. I was like, man, that's rough. So
I haven't been in a Half Price Books in probably about at least 2 or 3 months. So
yeah,
they always seem to I don't know, they're just so expensive now, and it's just like
yeah.
it doesn't even make sense to like go in there and spend anything. Oldies Radio hasn't been in Half Price Books since 2016, and you're better off probably.
Yeah, no kidding. They
What?
used to be great, like in the early 2000s. They were great. I mean, you could get things. I mean, 93 cents were their records. You could go in there and get a lightly used record or just not a big title record for 93 cents. Man, there were many times when you could go in there with $5 or $6 and come out with 6 or 7 records.
What I think was always interesting was
So
like they would have um the sealed stuff, like if it was like a sealed record, that stuff was like never more than like $10. Like I remember I got a sealed
Yeah.
copy of U2's Rattle and Hum, which U2 is another band that you just don't see their
Oh wow.
records as much as you used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I had that for a while. I definitely sold it, but I think I got it for like $10, and then of course the coupons and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Vinyl Fever saying that now those dollar records are $5 to $10. They sure are. Um, it's
Oh
it,
yeah.
it
How about those Steely Dan records? Like you and I were
yeah,
laughing about that when I was in Pittsburgh. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I mean,
it's crazy.
I think it's I don't know. Records are it's a strange thing, and especially with sort of being on YouTube. I started posting videos, I think like in 2000 and I don't know. I'm not even sure. Like vinyl ones I really started doing maybe like 2012, I think, something like that. I was posting stuff on YouTube before, but I didn't find the vinyl community until that time. And there just was like a lot, it just to see like you could go to Half Price Books, and like you said, you'd find a record, and it maybe there was like a dollar copy that might just be a little scratched up or something like that. So but yeah, there you go.
Or
Yeah,
it has a ding corner or
yeah,
something like that.
exactly. Like it wouldn't be in the shrink wrap or anything like that. I mean, our Half Price Books, a lot of the stuff, like the stuff from the 60s, that would be the stuff that was like 3.99, 4.99, 5.99. But you could get a copy of like Sergeant Pepper, and it was like $10. It would be with the
Yep.
insert and everything like that. Um,
Yeah.
and then
I got all my Steely Dan records for a buck. Like
okay.
seriously, like all like from Camp Ice Thrill to Groucho, like every single one of them, a buck a piece. Spend
Hmm.
$8 and you've got all their records. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that it's and now those Steely Dan records are $20 a pop.
Yep. Mark Neely's talking about Half Price Books was a gold mine. Got cheap original copies of The Queen is Dead and Eno's Another Green World around 2007. So yeah, and I mean they would have those coupons. Remember how they would do the progressive weekends where it was like Thursday 20% off, Friday
Yeah.
30, Saturday was 40, and then there was like the 50% off coupon
And
on
it
the
really
Sunday.
helped if you knew the two clerks that were working there that were in a band, and you were like, "You guys' band is really cool," and they got really flattered by that. So they're like, "Hey, listen, we got a copy of Blue Cheer in here. Do you want me to hold it for you?" Yeah. Hey, we've got Too Much Too Soon by the Dolls. Do you like the doll? You do? Okay, I'll put it with it. And then I'd run down the street and to go in there. And so yeah, that's gone are the days.
Gone are the days. But you know what? That's fine. That's we talk about the stuff that was even 10 years before that, where it was, I mean, you used to be able to go in the thrift store and buy Dark Side of the Moon. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it is completely changed. I feel like, I don't know. I even hate going into Goodwill and looking at their records because they're just like, nobody cares about them. Like that's the part that's rough. Like when you go to like and there's a bunch of records and they're just like all on top of each other and just whatever. Like if they're all like lined up and it's clean and it's neat, like I'll flip through every single one. But if it's just like all strewn together, like that like somebody
Half of
was
them are just the jackets,
yes,
and there's no record
yeah,
in there.
somebody was just they just didn't care because it's just like they looked at it and it was like, oh, this is junk and whatever. Ray Conniff's discography, but don't knock it. I'm gonna show you. I think I showed this book a while back, but I'll put it on everybody's radar again. This is called Easy Listening Acid Trip, and basically what this is it says an elevator ride through 60s psychedelic pop. All these albums in here are those ones that are like you've seen that one before, right? So it's like the
Yeah, yeah.
Donovan hits, but it's the orchestra music, and it sort of puts. I'm flipping through it, and I'm not seeing any covers, but they're in there, I promise. Um, here's the Beatles songbook, and it just sort of gives these, it gives you sort of here's the Doors songbook. I gotta still find that. That looks pretty good. There's
Oh, that looks awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the best part too is like they have, so we talk
What's the
about.
track listing on that Doors one now that you passed it? Sorry.
I don't think it gets into
They don't
that.
break down the tracks. All right.
No. There is they do talk about like, so there's a couple different indexes in here. So Steve, how we talk about, we like indexes, that's important. So you can, if there's like specific people that are mentioned, like, so like Lou Adler, right? So you could go in and you can look and see, oh, Brian Wilson, when did Brian Wilson have a quote? But there's the sounds of our time, Hey Jude, right? You've probably
Right.
seen a record like that and just said, yeah, I'm not getting that. Um, but then there's also it's based
That's
on
what the verb. That's what the verb pipe listens to kind of see what they can sample and make a song out of it.
right, exactly. But there's another index that it's called 50 psychedelic favorites refurbished. There's the Mystic Moods. Did somebody say Mystic Moods? No. Maybe I said it. But then you can go through and you can see, okay, so for instance, All You Need Is Love, and like here are like 12 albums that All You Need Is Love appears on, and they talk about like, okay, is it United Artists, is it Capitol, tells you when it came out, everything like that. Aquarius, that song of course had quite a few tunes for it. Of course, all the Phase 4, like, do you remember seeing these things, like the Phase 4 records,
Yes.
like all the
Yes.
covers had that big 4 in it, and it was like, Sam had a couple of those when we first started dating, but um, there you go. There's another Phase 4. Love is All You Need by Les Reed and his orchestra. Um,
All right.
so yeah, this is a fun book for.
Do they have a '50s one that comes up with all those like easy lists, Hawaiian moods or moods for Waikiki or
Lawrence,
songs to listen to while you lie in a hammock and drink a coconut with a
yeah,
straw?
Hawaiian steel guitar. Like that was definitely a thing in the 50s. That was once that movie South Pacific came out. Remember seeing like
Yeah.
tons of copies of
Yeah.
South Pacific. But yeah, Dan, it rules. I'll hold it up again for you. You can probably get it pretty cheap. This was like, it's $25 is the cover price on it, but I'm sure if you look on Amazon or wherever, you could probably get it a little bit cheaper. But easy listening acid trip.
I want to go down to the Caribbean.
The kind you watch shows on.
I want to get me one of them yachts. What'd you think it is? My dog?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to talk about, did we missed the Woodstock anniversary, but did we want to talk about that at all, or it's 10 o'clock? Do you want to go to bed?
No, we can rock out on
You
it.
ready to?
I have notes on Woodstock, so I'm going to disappear for a second, and I'm going to email myself my notes, and so I can contribute because I have some fun notes about Woodstock that I think will be interesting, and by interesting I mean amazing.
Amazing. Quill had a good record. They did. I know that
you know what? I need to re-listen to that, but yeah, Old Radios has been really going hard on that record, and it's. I need to go back and listen to it. It's one that I enjoyed when I heard it, and I need to hear it again to refresh my memory. But I'm back.
Yeah.
So I have some notes about Woodstock that I took. So
go ahead and lay it on me, Steve.
I got to pull them up first. That was my stalking tactic.
There you go. So talk to me about like when was the first time that Woodstock started?
Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay. Talk to me first about like your earliest recollection of Woodstock coming into your headspace.
Okay, so you were breaking up. Say again now. I'm sorry.
So talk to me about your first sort of recollection of Woodstock. When did it first sort of enter your headspace?
So probably like, I remember hearing, like learning about it in elementary school and things like that. But like it really, like when I started collecting records, that was among the first, I don't know, 50 or so I got was the
three discs,
LP,
right?
the triple LP.
Yeah.
Right. But it wasn't until they put it on DVD that I actually saw. That was like in 2007.
Okay. That sounds right.
When they put out that big
40th
DVD box set and all that.
40th anniversary, I think, is when. For
right.
Does that make sense? 2009, right? Yeah, 2009 would have been the 40th. Right?
So it was like 2009 then. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think that's what it was. So I remember watching that, and I will tell you that to me, Santana stole the show. Like that Soul Sacrifice is one of the best live performances I think you can ever see.
So do you know the little thing that happened with Santana? Do you know them being on the bill? Do you know how that all sort of came about?
No.
Okay. So Bill Graham had them, they were sort of booked at the Fillmore West, and I think at that time they were sort of like the house band, and they were booked sort of for the weekend. And believe it or not, Chicago was actually supposed to play at Woodstock, and what like Bill Graham wanted to get Santana on the bill at Woodstock, so he said, "Well, Chicago, why don't you come out to the Fillmore West and you can play that weekend?" And when they did that, then of course Santana didn't have to be in San Francisco, so they flew to New York
That's a
and
good
they
call.
played, and that's what he did because Bill Graham was a jerk, and in a good kind of way. But he was, he didn't give a crap about Chicago, but he wanted to get Santana. They were his, you know, again, one of the stable bands that he had at the Fillmore, so he wanted them to be there. So that's what he did. So if you look at Chicago when they played that weekend. So
I'll be.
yeah, um, Chicago would have ruled at that Woodstock. I mean, I don't.
Respectfully disagree.
Yeah, they would have been there. But yeah, I would say so. What 1969? So that would have been the CTA album, right? So that would have been the one that they would have been playing
Which,
on.
if you're going to own a Chicago album, that's the one to
Right.
to have.
Yeah.
Although there's about 9,000 other records that I could suggest you grab before that one, but no, yeah, Terry Kath. People love Terry Kath. Joe Walsh's favorite guitarist ever is Terry Kath. So
Well, we can't all be perfect, can
so
we?
so wow. So listen, like I am not like I understand that there is a huge love around Terry Kath. Like I get that, and um, I don't want to dog anybody else's musical taste. I mean,
Yeah,
shit, I like Kiss, so there's
that's
that.
right.
So, but like I'm
It's all in
certain like
good
Vinyl
fun,
Fever. I'm
Dan.
certainly not. It is. I'm certainly not ribbing you in any ill-mannered way or anything at all. I just, to me, Terry Kath is one of those guitar heroes that I just kind of wrap my head around as to why. I don't know if his early, demise has something to do with it, because Mark and I have listened to, like, taken everything out and listened specifically to his solos, and I mean they're different.
Right. And I think the best way to describe was it 25 or 6-4? Was that
Yes.
yeah, okay. So we sort of described that as um, basically they were going to pay Terry Kath a nickel for every time that he used the wah pedal, and hot dogs were 5 cents a piece that day. So it's just it hasn't dated well in my opinion. I think it's I don't know. It's a tough album, and the freeform guitar thing is something else altogether. So yeah, I'm again I'm not I'm not going to knock a band that's made way more money than I'll ever make in my lifetime.
Sure.
Right,
They're
but
doing
again,
something right.
they're
They're
just
doing
not for me.
something right.
Yeah, they're just not for me. So yeah, so yeah, they were supposed to play and they didn't, and Santana took their place. So you have your greatest Woodstock moment because Bill Graham thought that it was much better to have Santana instead of Chicago at Woodstock. So thank you, Bill Graham, wherever you may be. So yeah, so lay some more
Well,
knowledge on me. What else you got?
so this is one that I dove into this a little bit, but these are bands who like passed on Woodstock. Do you want me to go over a few of these?
Yeah,
And give you the
I think I know some
reasonable?
of these. Yeah, I think I know some of them, but
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. So, all right. The first one, the most obvious, I guess, the one that's missing is the Beatles. Promoters contacted John Lennon to discuss the Beatles performing at Woodstocks. Lennon said the Beatles would not play unless there was also a spot
For the
at the
Plastic Ono
festival
Band.
for Yoko Ono's "You Got It." Yes. So that didn't happen. So I think that was a good call. Another one, Led Zeppelin. Right, they were touring, I guess, on Led Zeppelin too at that point. They were asked to perform, but Peter. Oh, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a great moment in. So of course, there's we've gotten a huge, expansive view of Woodstock within the last couple of years with the massive box set, and then also this 10 disc little gem of a thing that came out a couple of years ago. But there's a part where they're talking about. I want to say they talk about the Atlanta Pop Festival. I think that's the one that they're talking about. And then they mentioned that Led Zeppelin's going to be there, and the crowd is pretty on board with that. They're like, they're saying all the names like Canned Heat, this band, the band I think played at that one. The Allman Brothers, I believe, played at that one too, right? That's that one. That's the whatever. But Oldies Radio is bringing about Joni Mitchell. Yeah, Joni Mitchell was booked for the Dick Cavett show, which Crosby, Stills, and Nash I think went to, or maybe just Crosby. Yeah, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I don't think Neil Young was there. And then Jefferson Airplane I think was on that episode as well too. They were all just sort of fresh from the festival. So that's definitely a thing to check out. I just remember Steven Stills like pointing at his pants and he's like, I still have my mud, putting the mud on his boots and all that. So of course that was like his poncho wearing era. So Krabby Cross, yeah. David Crosby, what is he, the inaugural mascot of the
So
Minglewood.
Yeah, but Peter Grant decided that it would just be another festival, and so they were like, yeah,
they didn't want them to play. Yeah.
Oh. Did I lose you?
You're there.
No, you're still there. All right.
You're just a little choppy. Steve has disconnected.
Yes.
There you are.
no, I'm here. My bad. Are we good?
Yeah, I lost you though. Here, let me get you back on the screen.
Get me back.
Baby, come back. You're all crooked now. You got to turn your phone.
You're all crooked now. Yeah.
There you go. There we are.
All right. Oh, you look nice and clear now.
There we are. You just reconnected to a different Wi-Fi.
The Doors.
Now, John Densmore is actually John Densmore appears in the Joe Cocker when they're doing that part. Yeah, he's sort of in the background there. So John Densmore was there.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan was not there, but he was going to the Isle of Wight soon after that, right? Or he was going to England, I think, something like
that. Yes, they were in the middle of negotiations for the upcoming festival, but backed out when his son fell ill. He was also quite unimpressed with the increasing number of hippies accumulating outside of his house near the original planned site of the festivals.
Yeah.
But yeah, it says he went to Isles of Wight 2 weeks later.
Yep.
Okay, here's one of Mark's favorites, Procol Harum. They were invited but declined because the festival was happening at the end of a long tour and the impending birth of band member Robin Trower's child.
That would have been a weird that would have been a weird era for Procol Harum though. So they were, 19 White Shade of Pale. So that was the Home album that came out at that point. So that would have been sort of a weird.
Okay.
Like I can't think of what song they would have. My internet connection is unstable, is what I'm getting a message on my on the screen here. I don't know what they would have played. Like what would have made it on the Woodstock soundtrack. I don't think anything. If not Whiter Shade of Pale.
No.
At that time, that song was like 2 years old already. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's one of your favorites, the Moody Blues.
Yep.
They originally were performers, but they declined and decided to back out after being booked in Paris the same weekend.
Sure.
So they went to.
There you go.
So
they went to Paris looking for answers. That's a Jimmy Buffett reference. If you didn't get it, I know.
He went to Paris. So of course I did. Jethro Tull. Ian Anderson was having his flute cleaned. Oh no, that's not right. It says I could go a couple of different ways, but this is a family friendly. It's Ian Anderson was quoted as saying that. Come on, we've been off for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This is all pent up.
This show needs more Jethro Tull jokes.
Done. Consider it done. Okay, Anderson was quoted as saying that he didn't want to spend his blank weekend in a field of unwashed hippies. Another theory is that the belief that the large festivals may have killed their careers before it began. And he insisted that a large number of groups who were repeatedly going on to play that was going to be at a hippie festival. He says, well, there'd be lots of naked people. And the promoter said, probably. And he says, well, there'd be lots of drugs. And the promoter said, probably. And lots of drinking beer and fooling around in the mud. And they said, yes. And Anderson is quoted as saying, I don't like hippies, and I'm usually rather put off by naked ladies unless the time is just right. Fine, stay home. Seriously, stay home.
Meanwhile, like a year later in 1970, they played the Isle of Wight, and I'm sure you've heard that before. Have you heard that set? They were like, it's like most of the stuff from the Benefit album, My Sunday Feeling. I think that's actually what the name of it is, My Sunday Feeling, Jethro Tull at the Isle of Wight, which is amazing. It's an amazing, I dig me some Jethro Tull, especially those first couple albums. So, not really a fan of the Passion Play, Thick as a Brick. I could kind of do without those ones, but those first 3, maybe 4 albums are pretty fantastic. So. What else you got?
With Jethro Tull, I like Benefit. I like
Stand Up.
What's the one after Benefit? I like Stand Up. I like Benefit. I like Songs from the Wood. But that band is very hit or miss, and it's more hits than more misses than hits. Yeah. But anyway, Frank Zappa and the Mothers were invited, but they turned it down. Tommy James
he was in Hawaii,
invited,
right? He was in Hawaii.
Exactly. Arthur Lee and Love declined the invitation, but Mojo Magazine later described inner turmoil within the band that caused them to be absent at the Woodstock Festival.
I mean,
Free was sorry. Go ahead.
But the thing about Love is, I mean, Arthur Lee never left California. I think that was sort of their demise. Like they just really never toured outside of California.
They never toured. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So, 1970 would have been what, Full Sail, right? I think. I don't know which album.
Yeah.
But
which is a good record. Dixieland Farm actually. So
there you go.
Free was asked, but they declined, which is odd because Free would have fit in there pretty good. I think they would have been. I think that's. I think that was a huge misstep. And of course, all this stuff is hindsight. Spirit was invited, but they declined. Instead, launched a promotional tour of their new album at the time, which I guess would be
Dr. Sarkozy.
Clear? Okay, you're right. Or Dr. Sarkozy.
No, because that was 60. That's a good question.
I'm pretty sure it's Clear. I'm pretty sure.
How's that bootleg, by the way?
Pretty.
Did you ever listen to that one?
Yeah, it's really good.
I should probably.
Sound quality is but it's it is what it is. Like horrible sound qualities.
Yeah, Clear would have been 60.
Don't bother me too bad.
You're right. Clear was released September of '69, so they were clearly not going to Woodstock as
Waka.
says.
Mind Garage.
Okay.
Declined because they thought the festival would be no big deal.
Hey, no big deal, baby.
And lastly, we have the Rolling Stones. And for a million Steve bucks, can you tell me what movie Mick was filming for the reason
Performance,
they
right?
turned it down?
Performance.
Ned Kelly.
Ned Kelly. That's right. Okay.
So I do have some ones that were almost there.
uh,
Like they had agreed, but through different circumstances, things happened and it didn't. So would you like to hear a few?
so I think there was one that was like, didn't Iron Butterfly almost play? And they got stuck at the airport, right?
So yes, yes, so you were yeah, so you were old radio said Joni Mitchell already, but yeah, so it was Joni Mitchell, Iron Butterfly. They were stranded at the airport. The Jeff Beck group were booked to perform, but they broke up a week before the festival, so they couldn't keep it together. So,
I probably would have had a hard time myself being in the Jeff Beck group during that time frame. What else you got?
so seems like a nice fella. That's all I got.
That's all you got. All right.
That's some little Woodstock nuggets.
So let me ask you a question. So as far as like
All right.
Woodstock, right? You see, you had that triple album. Has your perspective changed on that with like the newer releases and things like that, or like?
Yes, it's gotten. I think that I think it's strengthened my position on it. I think
Okay,
that like singing it and actually
Jeff Beck is
uh
not going to Woodstockola. Truth.
um so what you call it? Yeah, I think it's strengthened it for sure. I
Okay.
really do. I think it's strengthened. I think seeing some of those performances, and I'll be honest with you, and I say this with not trying to sound too biased, but I think that the Grateful Dead, I don't think they're performing now. What I rank that as one of their best performances, absolutely not. But I don't think it's that bad. I
Yeah.
think that probably with the headaches that they were dealing with sound wise is probably why they feel like this is just a once they get going, it's fine, but
Yeah. Well, and I think that's
takes a
why,
little bit getting there.
again, why Dark Stars seemed to kind of work a little bit more than the others, because just how they were, you know, there's not really too much singing in that, so it was just basically just playing, right? So once they got, like you said, cooking, it wasn't like El Paso or Mama Tried or anything like that, where they were actually just sort of, playing the set. But yeah, and I think that, it's interesting to sort of look at, of course, like the rundown. So this set that came out. This was kind of, there was like basically, and I did an extensive video on this. This was the 50th anniversary, not necessarily the budget collection. They had like a three disc sort of budget collection, which really didn't have. There was What was cool was they didn't really duplicate a lot of stuff, and I think that the Woodstock narrative for the longest time was that three disc set in the 90s, around 94 or so. They did put out like a single disc that had like the fish cheer. um of course, Star Spangled Banner was in there. Soul Sacrifice was in there. Going Up the Country was on it. Joan Baez's Joe Hill was on it. I'm Going Home 10 Years After. It really had sort of like the high points of
Sure.
Woodstock, but at the same time, again, it really sort of like wrote the narrative that like Woodstock was going to, it was really like this countercultural movement. You know what I mean? It was like just based on the tunes that are on there. When this came out, I mean, really, it's
Mhm.
like, if you think about it, it's 50 years later, and suddenly like we're hearing stuff that we never heard before, like commercially. Like you and I, we one thing we have to think about is that we are music obsessives. So, and people that watch this channel, it's the same thing. We are not like the
Sure.
general public to, um when that record came out, that was Woodstock, right? That was the what the people heard was what it was, right? They didn't think of it as anything else. They didn't know that like, oh, hey, this song was played. Like for instance, Paul Butterfield, the track that's featured on that is Love March, which again, it's not like the greatest Paul Butterfield song. They had again, I forget what they even put on here. So um, everything's going to be all right. But they had like Driftin' and Driftin', which is, it was like a 14, 15-minute song that they did. And that's on the expanded, the full length one. Um, so that narrative is like, okay, hey, it's a love march. Like, it's like, hey, the peace and love generation. So let's put that song in there. Whereas they could have put Born Under a Bad Sign, right? Um, but they didn't do that. And there's like a lot of things that are just sort of like, again, this is the way that the story goes. And I really think about that distilled
Mhm.
single disc, right? Like how that is. Again, you got the Fish Cheer on there, Star Spangled Banner. It's like you have like the greatest, little help from my friends. Like I think it's like 12 or 13 tracks. There's a Jefferson Airplane tune on it as well too. But it's just like for the longest time, for like 20 years, that was like the only Woodstock thing that I ever listened to until I got that LP, and then that expanded it a little bit. Wooden Ships by Crosby, Stills and Nash. I think I just named every single song that was on there, um, but it's kind of interesting to sort of listen to um, a band like maybe like Sweetwater, right? Who has for the most part have sort of disappeared into obscurity. I mean, there's not people like nobody's
Sure.
going out saying we need to reissue these albums or here's a record store day, B-sides of Sweetwater and things like that. Another artist is like Burt Summer, right? So Burt Summer he was in like the initial production of Hair on Broadway, and he kind of was able to break away and had somewhat of a solo career. I think he had maybe 3 albums, something like that. But his set is really good. Like it's really for some of those opening bands, it's actually pretty decent. And you look at a band like the Incredible String Band. Have you ever heard anything that the Incredible String Band did
Mhm.
at Woodstock? You've heard it, I'm sure, right?
I
No,
don't think so.
it,
I don't unless it's on the DVD and I've just kind of
it's doo doo, baby. It's doo doo.
missed
And
it.
and what they did was it started to
Yeah.
rain, and they were like, we're not going to come out and play. And then that's where like that started like all of those bands started like stacking up, right? So like the festival was sort of like running late to begin with, and then you had people playing very late and not playing at all, and that's the reason why Grateful Dead went on so late. You know what I mean? Um, Old Radio said I needed an incredible string band record. There's a lot. I can definitely help you out.
Much to John Fogerty's chagrin.
Right, exactly. Um, but this is a pretty great set. If you have, if you can, I don't know how much this is going for these days, but I think I paid like around maybe $120 for it or something like that when it came out. I got it from deep discount. I got there was like a coupon, like 15% off or something like that. But it does a really good job. Like you get at least 3 to 4 songs from every single artist that played. So that's something that's pretty cool. I mean, you do get the Star Spangled Banner and Isabella from Jimi Hendrix, and there's a lot of
So that is every note. Is that every note that was played?
not this one. So then there's the big box set, which there was only 1,600 or 1,969. That's what it was. So 1969 copies. That was all that. That's the full thing, like every note. Aside
Wow.
from two tracks, there's 2 tracks that were. I forget what the guy's name is, but he was the bass player for um, the band of gypsies at the time. What's that guy's name? Billy Cox? Is that what his name?
Billy Cox, yeah.
Billy Cox. He has 2 songs, and they didn't. The Hendrix estate said no, they didn't want that released. So
Wow.
Don't give them money, right? So if
Yeah.
so, if you can get a bootleg, there's bootlegs of that exist. But other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. It's really cool to hear all the stage announcements. At one point, somebody's asking about the Mets score because, of course, the '69
It's
Miracle
the
Mets.
world's, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
they were kind of like getting close to the playoffs at that point. End of August. Um, so it's pretty cool to hear. There's somebody in the crowd like, "What was the Mets score?" Um, but yeah, it's pretty great. I think again, 50 years on, my perspective has changed. I love listening to this box set. It takes I want to say it's almost like maybe 4 hours or so to go through it and listen to everything that's on this. But it's enough that you're listening to, okay, here's a couple songs by this artist, and then we move on, and a couple more, and we move on. So it's not like you're kind of like, stuck in one particular set. And really, those first couple bands were maybe only played 45 minutes to a half an hour as their full set,
Mm.
anyhow. They were really moving things quite along. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Very cool.
Just for you is the Sweetwater record I have. I think I've about maybe 4 Sweetwater records. I think there's, and I can honestly say I don't really listen to them that often, or at all for that matter. They're not really a band that I try to pull out and listen to. But that's what we got, Steve. Are we calling it a night? I think it's 10:30.
Let's call it a night.
Good place to
Yes,
end it. So,
it's a good place.
hey everybody, thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you next time, whenever it may be. So, take care. Good night, all. Sports truly.
Sports Truly and
I'll
Ellie Blanchard.
I'll see you at the Greensboro Coliseum on June 7th. Tully Blanchard.